Wealth, security, and opportunity are a byproduct of success. However, it often comes at the expense of deep personal satisfaction and happiness. This is the Design Your Destiny podcast, and I am your host, Penny Chason, board-certified hypnotist and #1 international best-selling author. I work with the highly successful influencers, business leaders, corporate leaders who desire a life by design. In this podcast, I will bring to you succinct solo episodes and interviews that dissect the challenges of success and highlights the ways to leverage your most underutilized asset, your subconscious mind. If you desire peace and happiness in your life, better health, and stronger relationships so you can enjoy the success that you have created, keep listening because this podcast is for you. Hey, I want to talk about something a little more fun today than your inner voice and all those things, right? I want to talk about your infinite potential. And you might be going, oh gosh, here we go. It's the woo. Well, yes, it's the woo, but it's not the woo, because the majority of successful business owners, business leaders that I see, they embody spiritual principles, even if they don't realize that they are embodying spiritual principles. So I'll give you a few examples before I dive into what I want to talk about today. So one of the common spiritual principles that I see embodied by really successful business owners, high performers, is the law of assumption. And that is where they just freaking decide, right? You decide what it is that you want. And you work on the assumption that as you go through and you are being the person you need to be to make that happen, that it's going to happen, right? Build it and they will come, more or less, right? But that's more or less the concept that, the law of assumption. This will come to me. I simply need to do what needs to be done, put the idea out there, create the network, the partnerships, put things in place, and it will happen. Now, I totally understand that these highly successful business owners, there is some level of objectivity here where you're selling something that's actually needed. You're not creating a pocket watch that runs backwards, right, and expecting to make $1 million, because who would want a pocket watch that runs backwards, right? One of the other spiritual principles that I see people follow is the law of reciprocity. If you've read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, there is a thread of reciprocity that runs through a lot of the different techniques that he talks about. And, it's about connecting with people and being genuine in those connections, and to give and to serve without the expectation, right? Without the expectation that they're going to buy anything from you. So for example, I have a couple of different kinds of calls that I do with people, and sometimes people will be struggling with something. I'm like, hey, if you want to connect, here's a link and we can connect. And so over that 20-minute call, I might just help them highlight a blind spot and things will just click for them, right? So, I may be able to see right away, they don't need hypnosis. They don't need one-on-one work with me. Let me just hop on a call and help this person facilitate their way, boom, right through. So that's reciprocity. I'm giving for the sake of giving. I'm not expecting anything in return. And there are a lot of people who do that. As a matter of fact, I've never met him, but I have a couple of friends who are friends of his, Joe Polish of Genius Network. He recently dropped a book called What's in It for Them. And he has built himself up and built his entire network off of reciprocity, right? It's off of service. Bob Berg of the Go Giver podcast. If you have read the book, The Go Giver, or I listened to the audiobook, it is the same thing. When you lead in business and you lead from a place of service, you will do well, right? Opportunities will come from places you never expected. These are actually universal laws. They're spiritual principles. And the thing that I focus on the most with people through my free content, through the workshops that I do, is around the inner voice. The last episode, I talked a lot about the inner voice and mastering your attention. Why? What is so important about that? When we master our inner voice and we master our thoughts, we're basically letting all of the indoctrination that we've received our entire life, we're allowing that to fall away and to be a pure expression of who we are, and to be able to receive that, to be able to receive from the intuition, from the knowing, to tap into our sense of what it is that we're really meant to do. I don't care what you do in this world. I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Oprah Winfrey. Every service that is provided, every product that is provided serves to fill a need in somebody's life. Whether you like the way people do it or not, like Jeff Bezos, I really don't know if I would like the man or not. What I do know is he has brought an immense amount of convenience into my life, and I appreciate that. So whether or not his intention was to serve or his intention was to become a billionaire, what he's done is he's created an immense amount of convenience in my life. Now, was that his purpose, to create convenience? I think that when he started Amazon, that yes, his intention was to create convenience for people. What if you didn't have to spend an hour in rural Mississippi driving to a store that had the goods that you needed, because the small mom and pop stores that are local don't carry those things, right? You know, I love shopping mom and pop stores. I love shopping local, but the reality is a small local store can't carry everything it is that you could possibly need. And basically, in my opinion, what Amazon has done is it basically eliminated the Sears catalog. I don't know if you had a Sears catalog when you were a kid. You may not be that old, but I mean, I remember for Christmas, you get the Sears wish book, and you'd sit there and you go through page by page and look at the toys and the sweaters and the boots and the coats and the trains and all the things, right? So the Sears catalog was our Amazon back then, except it was much slower. It was much, much slower. You had to mail in your order, had to process it, and then they had to mail it to you. It took freaking forever. So his purpose might be simply to bring convenience. He gets to choose to create how he does that, right? Bill Gates changed the computing world with Microsoft, right? I may not agree with the man, and but either way, he changed modern computing, right? Made computers much more widely available to people, which has elevated society depending on your point of view, right? Some people think of tech as evil, and that's a whole other thing. But they're fulfilling their purpose, right? They're fulfilling what it is that they're supposed to do. Oprah Winfrey is fulfilling her dharma. Like, she has moved into the stage. At first it was the movie that was The Color Purple that was connected to her story. And, because she said that book was her life, it represented what she experienced growing up. And then the talk show, she never knew that was coming. but she reached millions and millions through that talk show. And now she's all about helping people to see who they truly are, to love themselves, to trust themselves, to follow their heart, which is what we're all here to do. So even if we don't think of our business as a spiritual thing, it is spiritual principles and following our path and our authenticity that will allow us to grow that business to be wildly successful, right? But you still have to be objective in business. I do want to say that I do practice manifestation practices. However, I am not a manifestation coach, right? But I do practice those things, and manifestation is great. But, you know, I've had people in the past, before I worked with the level of client I work with now, I would work with aspiring entrepreneurs. And we would do these sessions, and I'm not knocking them at all. But I'm hoping that if someone who's an aspiring entrepreneur and you believe in manifestation, that you will receive what I'm about to say with the love and the compassion that I'm sending this out with. If you don't have commitment to taking the actions, if you're not prepared to do the things that you don't like and that are uncomfortable to build your business, if you're simply counting on setting your intention and sending your desire into the universe, and to literally sit back and do nothing and wait for your successful business to manifest, you might have a small business, but you're not going to have a wildly successful business, because, you know, the universe does not operate in a vacuum. We have to have that faith and take that action. I say faith, that's law of assumption. If I take the action, things are going to happen, to make sure that we're doing things that are aligned with us and bring us joy, and the things that aren't aligned, that we are passing those off to people who that is their zone of genius when we get to the point that we can. But there's going to be a period of time where you have to do it all yourself. There were many clients, potential clients, let me rephrase that. There were many potential clients that I simply turned down because they believed that they had a subconscious mental block on manifesting. And when I really dug in to make sure if I could help them before I sold to them, because I do not sell my services to anyone that I do not believe I can help. You don't need me. You don't have a plan. I'm like, if you have a plan and you're having difficulty executing on that plan because your mindset is getting in the way, call me back. But if you don't even have a plan in place, like what you need is a business coach, someone to show you the ropes, you don't need me. Like you would be wasting your money with me. You're putting the cart before the horse. So, you know, that ethics, the integrity, that is also a spiritual piece in business. And, you know, I mean, are there people out there who operate their businesses out of greed? I'm sure there are. Are there people who operate their businesses that they're just obsessed with more, more, more? I'm sure there are. However, I would also ask, you know, at some level, you know, is their interest also in serving? There's nothing wrong with having more if you're doing it from the right place and you're taking that money and you're using that wealth in a conscious way. And that's my own personal judgment. Okay, did you catch that? That's my personal judgment. That's my personal opinion. I don't care how much money you have. If you're doing good with that money and you're not bringing harm to the world with that money, because there's an infinite supply of money. Governments are printing more money all the time. It's not like, you know, this is my bar of gold and it's going to sit here and it's never going anywhere. No, I mean, I have to exchange that, right? when I need something, there's always exchange taking place. So, if you, yeah, we'll talk about money. We'll talk about money another day, but money is nothing more than energy. Just circling this back around to wrap it up, the importance of mastering your attention and mastering your thoughts is so the true essence of you can flow, so that you can tap into what it is that you truly, truly want. I mean, what do you really want? What do you want? Who are you? Who are you here to be? You know what? And has your success to this point simply been a vehicle so that you can recognize your next steps? Because I know that all of my years in healthcare, nursing, and then anesthesia, all of those years, my desire was to help move people out of pain and suffering. And today, my purpose is still to help move people out of pain and suffering, but a different way. And it's really not even about pain and suffering. At this point, my clients are already thriving. They've pretty much moved beyond the pain and suffering. It's just what's left around the edges. They're ready to let it go so that they can be in the fullest expression of themselves and create the impact that they know deep inside they're here to create, just like you, right? Just like you, because we're here to do more than just exist. And you already know that, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. I would love to know your thoughts about this episode. Let me know if you would like to hear more like this, and I will see what I can do about that, because I'm here to serve you. And as long as it's aligned with what it is that I'm doing, I'm happy to do it. One thing you really won't find on this podcast, I'm not going to talk to you about business strategy, sales strategy, or any of those things, but I will talk to you about the you strategy, because if you're not addressing the you strategy, how much does the rest really even matter? I'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Design Your Destiny. I would love to know what resonated most with you. So just take a screenshot of this episode, share it over on your Instagram stories, and tag me at penny.chason and let me know what you thought. Also, if you head over to iTunes and you leave a positive review, it helps this podcast to help reach even more people, making a difference, elevating humanity and mankind.